Good afternoon to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is Monday, August the 10th, 2020. We have about 10 days left until the traditional ramping up of the hurricane season really gets underway. So use this 10 days wisely. Do all those things I've been asking you to do. You got about 10 days left, and then things should start to really change, both from a climatological perspective. Naturally, we would expect that in any given hurricane season, but especially this hurricane season because of how favorable the background state is and is going to get. So my Monday discussions are usually a little bit longer. We go into more details about some of the things that we're looking at, kind of check up on some of the parameters such as sea surface temperature, anomalies, actual temperatures, things like that. So let's just get on with it, shall we? Our first stop today, the wide shot here of the Western Hemisphere, setting the stage for what we've been talking about for several months, really, and that is the warmer than average Atlantic. And now the whole Atlantic's just above normal. A majority of the heat focused down here, these anomalies in the deep tropics, the northwest Atlantic, though much warmer than average. This is definitely set up for us to see a hyperactive hurricane season. We know all this, I'm just reiterating it. The almost La Nina now coming on, and this is definitely starting to strengthen, and we can look at this from a different perspective. We'll do that in just a moment. Look how warm the Caribbean is, the western Atlantic over here off the eastern seaboard, and then the Gulf of Mexico has rebounded from being agitated by Hanna at the end of July. And if we look at it from a graphical perspective here from the Tropical Tidbits site, the 3.4 index, the Nino 3.4 area, what is that? Well, that's this region, generally speaking, right through here, roughly. If you took an average of it, this is your Nino 3.4 area. It's divided up the Pacific into these different regions, and this is that one area, and the index here has just been down, 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 right? And now it's almost at La Nina threshold. And according to the Climate Prediction Center, the CPC, usually a half a degree Celsius and lower is your La Nina, and we're almost there. We had a rebound during the summer, and for most of the summer, and then bam, everything fell off again as the pattern has now become more conducive towards a La Nina, and that will reduce the wind shear in the Atlantic. When this water is colder than average, you have less upward motion, less rising motion over here. The air doesn't sink and spread out across this area. That generally doesn't happen, and it creates a more favorable environment, among other things. That's the simplest explanation. And then in the Atlantic, with all this being warmer, you tend to focus the upward motion over here. You have lower than normal sea level pressure through this region, and once the season gets to the point where things naturally start to become more favorable, it just rides that roller coaster on through, and we see a big proliferation of hurricanes like we did most recently in 2017. At the end of August, Harvey, and then Irma, and then Jose, Maria. You remember it came, and it was just terrible. And I think we're going to see more activity than we saw in 2017, and the experts tend to agree. Not that they agree with me, we all agree with each other. We're seeing the same things. So, the Nino 3.4, and then you switch over, and we look at the Atlantic. And we had a big spike when the trade winds relaxed. Then we had some dust and tropical waves, and then it's kind of come up again. But the average there, a half a degree just about above the long-term average across the main development region, which in this instance we're talking about roughly this area right through here. That's the area we're talking about, and those water temperatures averaging now almost a half a degree warmer than average. And I've talked about this before, that if you took my little cup of water here and raised the temperature a half a degree Celsius, I probably wouldn't notice. But that additional energy in that cup of water is detectable. Heat equals energy. This is thermodynamics 101. And you rub your hands together and it gets warm. You're creating friction, and that creates energy and heat. So you take a vast expanse of water. If you expand this out hundreds of billions of times, the volume, and take that same volume of water that's now hundreds of billions of times larger, there's a few ounces left in the cup here, and you take it and you change that variable, make it larger, but keep the constant the same, it's 0.471 warmer, then the amount of overall energy spread out over that giant volume of water is insane. And I do not know how to explain that to you because I am not a physics professor. I just know that it equates to a tremendous amount of available energy for tropical cyclones to take advantage of. It has to do with joules per kilogram. I think in a square centimeter of water, it just starts getting hard to explain. But the bottom line, when we see this, it's just a half a degree roughly. And you say, well, what's a half a degree between friends? It's a lot, trust me. Then the Caribbean, above a half a degree Celsius, it's been fluctuating. So the Caribbean is warmer. The Gulf of Mexico, now this is really cool. I like this. This is so neat. And a round of applause for all of Levi Cowan's work over the years to produce these graphics that we are able to see and visualize here. Look at what happened. That big V shape. We all know what that's from, right? That's from Hanna. That's what I'm talking about. When we say that hurricanes remove heat from the tropics, that's how they do it. That's the most efficient way. They churn up the water. They mix it up. Just like if this was a hot cup of coffee or even a hot cup of water, the water was hot, and you blow across the top, you cool it off or you stir it, you're mixing it up. And that's what tropical cyclones do. They agitate and they mix up the top surface of the water, the couple dozen to maybe 100 meters deep. It just depends on the hurricane, how slow it's moving, a lot of other factors. But you can see the noticeable decline there. And this is right when Hanna formed and did its work there. The water temperatures responded, and now they're on their way back up again. And the Gulf of Mexico, on average, about a half a degree warmer than normal. And if we look at the actual sea surface temperatures now, not anomalies, these are not departures from anything. These are actual temperatures, and these are your isotherms, lines of equal temperature. There's 30 Celsius. I think that's about 86, 85, 86 Fahrenheit. That, to me, is very concerning because it's all-encompassing of most of the population areas of the Gulf of Mexico. And then you have another isotherm here that's 31 Celsius all through here. And there's probably some pockets in here of 32. Real close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you live down there, you work down there, you go out and you work on the oil platforms through here. And a lot of people that watch these videos do work in the oil industry. They work in the shrimping industry, the fishing, marine interests. And I'm not telling you, you're like, oh, Mark, I hear you. I see it every day. That is very, very warm. And that's concerning because if you get a hurricane that tracks into the panhandle, comes into the southwest part of Louisiana, some comes northeast into Louisiana and Mississippi, all of this 30 degrees Celsius water is waiting. And I'm going to tell you the truth, what we need right now is for a fairly slow moving, not too slow so we don't get crazy rain, but we need something to come along kind of slow like this and make landfall in Galveston or Bolivar that's about a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm that churns all that up and gives us a break later. It's weird to say, but we need to be rooting for that because the longer that water continues to get warm, the more energy is available for that first hurricane that comes along and has a perfect atmosphere. And I've seen this before, okay? It's the pattern repeats itself even if it's not immediately, we saw it 15 years ago with Katrina and then Rita. Now, those had a loop current that they were working with that was up into here. It's a little different, but that's a lot of warm water, absolutely. All right? Off the Atlantic seaboard, after Isaias and Come on, man. Now that I can say it properly, it's gone. Isaias. It's easy now. Isaias churned up the water a little bit off of my coast, North Carolina, and there's a little island there of 27 Celsius. This orange here is 28. This orange color is 29. And you notice, too, when Isaias went up here, and just the way the currents are right now, a lot of that warm water, there's the 26 Celsius line right there, the yellow, that's all disappeared, thankfully, away from the east coast. So the water temperatures cooled off quite a bit in the wake of that hurricane. But all it takes is a strong high with some easterly winds coming in, pushing the Gulf Stream more to the west. And we usually get that in the latter part of August into September, those late dog days of summer, as they're called. But water temperatures are very warm. That's there. That ingredient is absolutely in place and ready for something to come along and just, you know what can happen. But another way to look at it is the upper ocean heat content. And, let me just calm down or slow down for a sec. Not calm down. I usually don't get worked up. It sounds very doom and gloom and bad news all around. But I want you to look at it from a different perspective. I'd really try to look at things from an optimistic point of view. And I've really done that ever since something that happened to me at the end of 2018, where I almost died from what's called an aortic dissection. I had high blood pressure, was overweight, and I ignored it. And my aorta, which is like a candy cane-shaped big-time blood vessel in your body, it started to separate from the inside out, and I almost died. I mean, it was like that close to death. And I could have come back and been like, life sucks, I'm depressed, screw it, I'm not going to do anything. And I would have eventually died, probably sometime in 2019, last year. Seriously. But instead, I looked at it as a new beginning, and I've always been a pretty positive guy. And I do look at this, even though these signs are very, very ominous. Let's look at it on the other hand. We got advance warning. We know it's coming, potentially, and we can prepare ourselves mentally. And I keep pushing that yes, these hurricanes are stressful. Yes, they can cause life-changing events to happen. Those are things we don't have any control over. They're either coming or they're not. But what we do have control over is PMA. Positive mental attitude. All right? The more we can think about it in the positive light, that we have advance warning. We've seen this coming for weeks. We do have control of our destiny to an extent. It's not like we're sitting here talking about a 6-mile wide asteroid that the scientists have all agreed is going, and doesn't matter where that impacts, but is going to impact right there, where there really is no hope. Okay? Seriously. That's when you say, there's no hope. We've had a good run. This is different, ladies and gentlemen. This is not an extinction level event. This is something that we have seen coming. We see the tools that are out here that tell us, this very warm water, the upper ocean heat content is exceptional. We have advance warning. We can do something about it. All right? So I know it sounds ominous, but please look at it from the science is on our side and use it as a tool to help us. Now, that being said, if we compare it to the last time that we had a big season, that was 2017, a really big season, we are ahead of that, clearly. Okay? And so let's look at history. We know what happened in 2017. We had Irma that, cut through this area and did all of its dirty work, right? Kind of up like that. We had Maria that came in and did its thing over here. Jose was not too far behind. Nate up into the Gulf Coast region. And let's learn from all that. Yeah, man, that was rough. I don't want to go through that again. So do something about it. Make a play, as they say. Make a play. Have something, a plan, whatever the case may be, and do something about it. We see it coming. We're not helpless. Seriously. Trying to be positive. All right, real quick before we get to the Atlantic, East Pacific, The MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, we're going to talk about that more in a minute, is starting to favor this area more and more. So we have a couple of systems. This area probably going to develop, and it'll do so, and it'll head off in this direction with time. And then, of course, we have Elita over here, or Elita, whatever, and it's going to be a hurricane soon. And I can just click on it and show you where it's going to go. Away from Mexico, it will send some swells out. So you will get some high surf along the Baja. Surf's up. Go enjoy it safely. But this will move on off to the west-northwest and eventually die over the colder water. And so once again, you folks in Mexico, Manzanillo, Acapulco, etc., Zihuatanejo, even Cabo San Lucas, no worries from direct hits. 95L in the Atlantic, it's trying, and I'll show you that on satellite here. First, there's Elita in the Pacific. There's other disturbance, more upward motion starting to happen over here, favorable environment. But we're seeing it start to spill over gradually, kind of like a force field, into the Atlantic basin. More convection here, more here. And look at that. That's not in the tropics. That, folks, is a derecho. And this will dominate your Twitter feed for the next day or so, because that sucker is headed for Chicago, where millions of people live. A derecho, oh, how do I even explain that? Just a huge thunderstorm complex, almost like a tropical wave. Big, organized, mesoscale convective complex of thunderstorms. Small, relatively speaking, it's not like a giant storm like that, like a big nor'easter. You know, it's a small area, so it's mesoscale. But man, it's powerful. 80, 90, 100 mile per hour wind. Wow. You'll definitely see that in your Twitter feed if you follow much weather. Moving on to the east, you know, it's getting there. I mean, talk about watching the pot boil. This is it. We're watching that pot boil. Laptop's talking to me all the time. And it's getting there. The bubbles are coming up, you know, and it's getting ready to boil. More and more convection. Again, there's the one there, a little piece here, some here. 95L, another system coming off. Speckles of convection in the southwest Atlantic. The derecho up there in the upper Midwest. The western hemisphere is getting ready to come to life. And we will have a burst, an outbreak, as I've seen people call it, of hurricanes. Probably after August 20th. Very typical. That's usually when we would expect it anyway. It's going to line up with this favorable Kelvin wave, or MJO, kind of a combination of the two that are passing around the globe. And I'll talk about that more in a moment as to what exactly is that and so forth. But it's going to light things up. So there's the vorticity signature. I love it that for right now there's no tropical cyclone symbols on top of these. I mean, let me zoom in on that, because you see what a fan I am of this graphic. And there it is. A round piece of energy in the tropics. That's a tropical cyclone signature for you, as detected by satellite, and the vorticity. And the closer towards the center you get, the brighter the colors. That just shows the conservation of that angular momentum, where the air and the vorticity is faster around that low pressure center. So there's less vorticity around the edges, or less spin, more in the center. It's kind of like a black hole, sort of. I mean, it is. You got the low pressure in the center, and the winds are spiraling in counterclockwise, and there you go. Perfect example. And 95L right here, we'll do a little 95 drawing for you. It's trying to get its act together. It looks kind of like a weird, like, I don't know, like a face almost. I was going to say Mickey Mouse, but not quite. A couple of eyes in there, right? There's the ears. Sort of like a Pokemon or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing it. But seriously, okay, when you're done laughing at me, that's not as well organized, because it does have these lobes over here. And so you can compare, and you see what I'm talking about. This other one doesn't look like that. But this is trying to focus the energy down there. Pokemon notwithstanding. Whatever. Should have pulled up a Google image to show you that I'm not going insane. It has like a weird look. Those are ears, and that's the face. Or maybe a koala bear. There we go. Point is, the Atlantic's trying, but nothing focusing just yet. But look at this little storm system up in the far North Atlantic. Yep, that's a little low pressure area, but it's over colder water. So it's extra tropical, and it's got this little front trailing off of it right there. So there you go. All right, GFS, 850 millibar level of the atmosphere. Same area we were just looking at from the analysis, but this is the forecast. There's Elita, nice dark blob of height lines showing you the tight pressure gradient there at 5,000 feet. Enormous area of high pressure out over the Atlantic basin, ridging its way, the axis through here, all the way over to Texas. And then there's our little disturbance, 95L. What happens? Let's move this out in time. Next 120 hours, there's 24, 36, 48. I'm going to hold on to my assertion that this gets a name at some point. Josephine. GFS trying to pick up on it a little bit, strengthens that vorticity by day 2. By day 3, yeah, it's trying, but then that dry air gets entrained, and it probably starts to fade away. There's hour 120, 5 days out. It's approaching the Lesser Antilles here, the northern Leeward Islands. So you guys be ready. There will probably be some showers and storms with that. This would be Saturday. So during the day Saturday, this system probably passing through. And you never know. Is it possible that things get more favorable in this area between now and Saturday? Yes. We've seen it before. It wouldn't shock me if it does it again. So keep your eye on that. You never know. Then another system developing down there south of the Gulf of Tehuantepec in Central America. The European, at least the Euro, is fairly similar. This is our disturbance. Come on, right there. And similar setup overall. We move this out 24 hours. Yeah, it tries to strengthen it some. 48, it's still there. 72, not so much. 96, 120, just a slight reflection of itself. A little slower. The GFS is a little bit farther to the west, like that. See? Pretty close. So bottom line, you guys there in the islands, be ready. At least, the very least, a tropical wave will be passing through. Probably a vigorous one at that. Now, the Madden-Julian oscillation. Ugh, how did he explain this? It's literally this force in the atmosphere that circles the globe about every 30 days or so, 30 to 45 days. And it's like a big rising motion. You have the rising motion of it, version of the MJO, and a sinking branch or version of it. So it kind of undulates, right? And it allows for tropical convection to flourish when the Madden-Julian oscillation moves through a certain area of the tropics. It's a tropical phenomenon. And we can see it on this phase diagram. It's plotted. This is where it's been, and this is where it's forecast to go. And the phases that most favor Atlantic hurricane activity are generally 1, 2, and 3 for the most part. Sometimes 8, but really 2 and 3. And it has to do with how that moves across the Atlantic basin. It reduces wind shear. It increases moisture. Vorticity, it's just like a big enhancement, but it's fairly widespread. It covers a large area of the basin instead of this smaller, shorter duration wave in the atmosphere that we know of as a convectively coupled Kelvin wave. Very scientific words here, but these Kelvin waves are, smaller in time and amplitude, etc. And sometimes one can lead to the other. It gets very complicated, but the bottom line is the modeling is in general agreement. This is the European ECMWF, as you see right there, maybe, right there, for the next 2 weeks or so. And what I think is going to happen is we'll see this amplify into phase 1, 8-1, and then 2-3, and probably just kind of get stuck out here for a few weeks. And then the Atlantic will light up, and everything we've been talking about will start to happen. And you better be ready. All right? So that's the Madden-Julian oscillation explained as best I can. You see people tweeting about it. Dr. Michael Ventris and others maybe Eric Webb sometimes, Tyler Stanfield, the OU graduate, I think he is now, if I'm not mistaken. Jack Sillen will talk about it. But anyway, it's coming. Get yourselves ready. Mind first, physically next, your body, your house, your whatever, and then financially with an F, fiscally ready as well. All right, before I go, get back to my title screen. So you remember these tracking maps that I was talking about a number of weeks ago? These big posters? Oh, that's pretty cool. I was selling them early on in the season. I had a link, and so I sold out. But the link was still there on my old YouTube videos, and people ordered them. And I had 8 orders come in, and so I was like, oh man, I got to order some more. I'm not going to not fulfill those orders. And I know we've already had 9 named storms, but we're going to have probably 15 more. We have a whole hurricane season in front of us, so I ordered 100 more of these because it's just cheap to do from uprinting.com. I made these maps myself. I did. I designed it more than 20 years ago in Adobe Illustrator. I used to print those up for companies such as Lowe's Home Improvement. Seriously, this is a true story. Some of you probably have some of those. We'd fold them. They actually were larger. We'd make them into like a guide, and on the back was all this hurricane information. And I did them for TV stations like WCIV in Charleston, WECT in Wilmington, WAVY, WCNC. I know I'm sounding like I'm dropping names, but this is what I used to do back when printed maps were all the rage. Then everybody started using these things called smartphones, and all of the tracking was done on apps and computer programs. And those are all well and good, but I'm old school. My degree is in geography, all right? I made that map. I'm proud of it. It's awesome. It's 2020. Bottom line, I'm selling them again because I had to fulfill the 8 orders. So I ordered a bunch more. And since they were already made, I just had to do a reprint. It was much cheaper. They're $20, including shipping. I fold them up. I can't send you a rolled one because that makes it more expensive to ship. And then I can't sell them for $20. But I fold them and you unfold it and it's all good. I'll put the link in the description today. And if you want to buy one, I'll send it to you, and you can fill it out. And at the end of the year, the worst year ever for just bad stuff happening, there's your 2020 hurricane map. You never know. And it helps support what we're doing. And it's PayPal. That's how I do it. And it supports a worthy cause. If you think I'm a worthy cause, I hope you do. That's how you do it. I'm already on the title screen. So anyway, I'll put the link in the description. Purchase yours. I'll ship it out tomorrow. And then in February, when people are still ordering them by accident, I just say, I'm sorry, they're all gone. But you'll have a finished one that's all filled out, and it'll be historic. You should frame that sucker. I'm serious. It's going to be an amazing season coming up. I just hope we can get out of it without too much calamity. We got to use our brain and our common sense and our collective experiences, and we'll deal with all this, all right? I'm counting on you. And you can count on me. I'll be here doing my job. All right, I told you it goes long on Monday. I just like to be able to talk to you and not at you. I feel like we all are friends here. A huge following on social media. Well, relatively speaking, for me, all the people that follow me, that's amazing. It's almost enough to fill up a football stadium. That's pretty cool. Football, which we're not having apparently in college, but story for another day. Woe is me and woe is all the rest of us, at least for that. Let's end on a positive note. We can do something about the hurricanes. We can be ready. I will do my best on this end to get you ready, at least from the informational side, and then the live coverage. If you've never seen that before, oh my goodness, wait until you see it. We're going to talk about that later in the week. For now, have a good rest of your Monday. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day time-wise. I do appreciate it. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll talk to you again some more tomorrow.